the crystal ball, the future outlook. My panelist today is Joe Warren from CMI Media. A little background on Joe. Joe has spent his career working at some of the top media agencies worldwide. He worked diligently across multiple brands, building a solid foundation in consumer advertising, and translates these skills across multiple international markets, having worked in Australia, Thailand, and Vietnam. Also some great stories with working in those locations as well. And now based in the US. In his current role, Joe is responsible for CMI Media Group's global growth strategy. Joe has been fortunate enough to have held large global technology accounts such as Samsung and Intel, and led the media team for Pharma's award-winning Go Globally campaign. Joe Warren, everybody.
Thank you.
I'm going to come sit next to you, Joe.
In cozy both fireplace.
And yes, we should have a better list. Let's have a nice chat. So in case some of you are not aware, just recently CMI released their Future Outlook of Healthcare and Consumer HCP Communications. It's an annual report that comes out. If you haven't downloaded it, find it online and download it. It's great information. Joe, why don't you take a couple minutes and kind of give the group kind of what that's all about.
Okay. So first off, if you go to CMI and download the report, I promise I will not hound you. I am responsible for growth, and thought leadership is a hook that we use to obviously build out an email list. But for today only, I will let anybody off the hook. You will not get hounded. These reports, where we look into the future, are taken very seriously at the agency. We sit on an incredible level of HCP and DTC data. Our audience intelligence group goes and does market surveys. Our thought leadership teams from search, from social, from programmatic start to think and project out to 5 years on how they think healthcare is going to change, specifically the marketing and the messaging of audiences and what we think is going to happen. Like any shot at the future, it's our best guess. So I think in this year's report, there were some very interesting findings that we're going to talk about with them. And the first one was that the US population is getting sicker at a younger age. And if you think about that headline, it's a little bit surprising. I mean, I think we could look to the last couple of years with COVID, with mental health, and understand some of the changes that are going on. But a lot of these are serious weight issues, diabetes issues, heart care issues, and it's kind of, and frankly, it's a little depressing that as we look at the stats, the younger generations are getting sicker than they have been in the past. And the other side of that coin is the boomers and those that are elderly are surviving longer. Pharma, healthcare has done a great job at extending people's lives, extending quality of life, and a great job at the back end. But this is all coming together, and we see it in an increase in healthcare costs. You know, no matter which way you look at it, healthcare is getting very expensive in the US. There's multiple middlemen between the patient and the pharma industry that impact that, but definitely there is a sense of a problem and urgency to react. And how we think about that is, how can we better educate, create knowledge, and help better outcomes? And so the report is called the Future Outcomes, because we are all in this to drive better healthcare outcomes for patients, and that's the focus ultimately of how can we use some of the new technologies, some of the data, some of the AI that is coming down the pipeline to drive these things forward with our messaging.
I want to get to a couple of points that you were mentioning, but but that first point about Americans getting sicker younger really struck me when I was reading the report. Do you think in general that's more because diagnostics may be better and we're finding out earlier stages of health?
I think that plays a big part of it. There is a generational shift. Right? Boomers and older audiences have always kept their health care very close to the chest. They may be sick, they do not rush to share that. Younger generations are much more open, transparent about what's going on in their life in general. They're not on social, they talk to each other, much more open to conversation. And I think what we are seeing, to the point, is that they are prepared to go to a doctor earlier,
Right.
ask questions, have a dialogue, and the tools are there now to do early diagnosis. So that is certainly part of it, and that's right.
Yeah. And to that point, and I know it's hard to think that far ahead, but do you think because of that generation's ability or willingness to speak more about it and be more open about it, that's going to lead to better outcomes in the future, and that we can?
I do. I would
Yeah.
generally be on the positive side of that. I think the more transparency there is in conversations, and again, the thing understanding, I've got a cough. Maybe I should go and have fat dip. Yeah, ways in the past, maybe might be like, come fine.
Do you see that across various demographics, or is there specific thinking about health equity, right? In that regard, do you see that more across different populations that they're treating their health more in that regard, or is it just broadly across?
I think broadly across the population, people are taking their health more seriously. They're looking to get into in front of a doctor. Of course, demographically and socio-economic guidelines and rules and being the way the economy breaks down, not everybody has good a doctor. So I think Hispanic populations, African American populations, there are underserved populations that are still struggling, and very much so. And I think as we look forward, the digitalization of health, the way that there are many more opportunities to, just about every pharmacy is now opening up a health center where you can go and see somebody, get a quick diagnosis, something simple, get script written, and pick up the medicine you need at one point. So I think that those changes are going to come down quite quickly and help some of these under-resourced markets. But again, I tend to be very positive on that.
I agree with you on that. That kind of leads me to this next part of which, the same vein of that, there was a section called Point of Care Everywhere, right? Which is exactly that. I think that, to your point, is something that could be really beneficial from a social determinants of health standpoint, as well as from beginning to close those health equity gaps. But again, this is a marketing conference. How are marketers, how are brands able, what do you think how are they going to take advantage of Point of Care Everywhere and just things of that nature going forward?
I think data is obviously going to play a big role going forward. We have better understanding than we ever had of whether a message has been seen and what the action out of that message has been. And it's coming together. So as we get a younger, sicker population and more focused in the digital space, we are starting to make those dots, the connections happen. We start thinking about younger doctors. The doctors are also getting younger, and they are more digital companies. So again, when we speak about patient-landlocked populations, digital connections, and next best action is really going to be where everybody is at. And
it becomes front and foremost.
And as you think about point of care, that is another set of data points, but they're much closer to that connection between the patient and the doctor. That's why it becomes such a critical opportunity to have messaging communication
as close to that as possible.
As close to that as possible. It's the last bit. I used to work on Kellogg's. We always talked about the last 6 feet. You walk down the cereal aisle, and it's the last 6 feet, which of those brands are you going to grab?
When you're going to make your decision, yeah.
And in those days, it was the shelf orders, the promotional pricing on the package, all that stuff. In this world, is what's happening in the waiting room, what's happening at the check-in, what do we have in terms of that very number.
As you could drive that next best action. You've been mentioning that as we go, and I want to come back to that because I think that's going to be real important in regards to this. But there was a quote in the report that I want to just go through with you because I thought it blew my mind. It was, over the next 2 years, omni-channel campaigns will deliver an orchestrated, omnipresent, and always-on surround, becoming increasingly dynamic, personalized, and connected. That sounds incredible. What does that mean?
That's a good question. When we talk about omnichannel, we are literally talking about channels still, and it is often a digital conversation, next best action, and we have partners, publishers, and we can link those actions across. When we got omnipresence, it is the linking of real-world activities with that digital activity. What has the sales rep said to the HCP? Has the patient recently done something in the real world called an virtual music concert or whatever it happens to be? And I think omnipresence starts to recognize the whole person, both their online and offline activities, and coordinates messaging across the two. And whether it's the HCP, where they are literally taking their white coats off, they've got their blue jeans moment, watching the Masters on Sunday, as I'm sure plenty were, how are we making the connections to the HCP at that point in time? And they're not doctor, they're a patient, it's part of their life. So that's omnipresence, it's trying to really understand the whole person, online and offline, and how we can intersect.
So it's to me, that sounds like, well, again, as marketers, we're all talking about patient journey, right? Patient journey across. You're just talking, it's now consumer journey, right? So it's marrying the two together, whether it's their healthcare journey as well as their consumer journey, living life journey.
Susan Dorfman, our CEO, constantly says to us, but people think about their illness, their sickness, their medical challenges. 10% maybe their day. The rest of the time they are living life. And if you're doing a good job, that 10% should be done.
Exactly.
They shouldn't be so late. They shouldn't be so concerned. And it's the rest of life where you can interact with them and get messages that are important.
That's fascinating because that kind of, when you start to find those intersection points, that's when you really become meaningful in someone's life. I think that's it. So in that same vein, so I imagine you're looking at retail networks and things of that nature that are going to be hugely important as we go forward, as people do their lives and all of that stuff. And I'm sure, whether it's shopper market, however you want to call it, it's all going to be connected as we go forward.
Correct. Yeah, we do talk about point of care. We also talk about point of purchase. There's been incredible changes in what pharmacies can do. We can look at their buying behavior outside of RX and look at OTC and make the linkages. And then we have the whole e-commerce and the HIMS, PERS, all these new ways to receive medicines, to receive better healthcare outcomes. We are in there actively looking at that, seeing how we can get data that works. And making sure that we're not leaving a stone.
It's fascinating in that regard. So it kind of leads me to the question, what we're talking about right now is so personal, right? And you have a great background in video, from that perspective. Where does TV fit into all this? Or does it'll still have a place, but where is the importance of TV in that overall journey? Because to me, again, I'm biased because I play in the point of care space, but to me, the impact of a message in point of care has to resonate more than the impact of a TV ad in the nightly news, right?
Yeah, I think video is incredibly powerful tool for emotional connection with patient. What I'm also seeing, just as everybody else is that cable television, linear television viewership is declining. Individuals are spending 11 hours a day now online, and a big part of that is watching videos.
Right.
You see the social networks used to be places where you would have conversations, talk with peers who form opinions. Increasingly, social networks have become video formats, entertainment formats. So I think the video will continue to be incredibly valuable.
Because of the way it can portray message, right?
Right. And it will move to the more personalized mediums where we start to make better connections through online. And point here will be absolutely part of that. There's no reason why it wouldn't be.
Yep. Do you, let's go back to what I was saying before. Data. I mean, it's going to be the key. That is going to be the key for all of this as we go forward. When is data too much? And what is kind of the right data that's out there? Because there's so many things that we all know, and everybody's heard, everybody knows, data means nothing unless you create insights out of it. So how does that all work into what you're talking about?
It's a great tightrope. For those of you that were in the first meeting, there was very much a question on that or a comment from the animal, and they're like, yeah, everybody's got data, there's too much of it. Let's have an actionable insight out of it. Let's do something with it. And strategy and talking about the data without action doesn't count for anything. I think as a media agency, we are at the cold face. We are right there and have the ability to action on inside. We look for triggers and algorithmically sending the next message based on the data we have. And that is only what we promised. It is, we will have more options. We will have faster turnaround times. We will have more accuracy in the data that we get. And that's what AI is bringing to the table for us as a media agency, is speed to market and accuracy in the data. So it
Trust, in other words,
and it'll keep moving forward at a pace. And I think it is, again, we are very much about implementation, getting into market, shifting media budgets on what we see. So any insights we get out of that, we action.
Is this what? This is what clients are talking about, I imagine, right? You're pitching clients every day to come on board at CMI. I'm sure this is what they want to see, but they probably have no idea how to utilize it in any way, shape, or form.
No, I think clients are incredibly sophisticated. Right?
There you go.
We have conversations with clients that want to in-house. They have their first party data. They are collecting data. They have access to the branded websites. They are quite comfortable saying, no, we're going to have omni-channel, how are we going to run that into?
Do you think they understand what omni-channel actually is, or they have an opinion on it?
I think my opinion is understand, but I think the former clients have always been scientists, have always been very good at data, they have analytics, understanding in a way that many companies do not. So I think in that respect, the omni-channel discussion with our clients is probably pretty sophisticated and they're in a good place. Now, that's not to say every client is on that same spectrum. Right. There is still a big role for the agency to offer managed services to run the omni-channel. Handles data, but I get it. It's you see a whole range of data strategies. But
they're all over. Because you probably said exactly this. I think if you ask 10 people,
you get a different.
You'll get everyone will have a different idea of what omnichannel is, what the right data is, in that. So that kind of leads me kind of to our last question, and I'll open up to questions from the audience. All of this we're talking about now, taking it back to a marketing perspective, what are clients looking for results? I mean, what does a good campaign look like? What are they looking for? I mean, what's the KPIs that they're trying?
That's a great question. I think increasingly it's like, how do I move my business forward?
Yeah.
I'm not interested in talking to you about reach. I'm not interested in talking to you about touch points of frequency. Did you move the business? Yeah. So that becomes a nice KPI to talk about. Measuring that does require collaboration and partnership with you now, via tools. We don't have access to that data. We can run KPIs and optimize based on what we see. With some of our more advanced relationships with clients, we see their data. That helps us optimize that, but ultimately, I think increasingly is the outcome. Business driving change.
And how could us in the audience here as media partners to you, how can we help you formulate that? Could we do better to formulate that better so you could show those KPIs back to your client?
Yeah, that again is a great question. We had a team that focused specifically on getting true data back in context as quickly as possible. And we essentially are looking for overnight updates. Some partners have been resistant to that. They don't share the performance data or what they want to only do on a monthly basis. And markets move well past.
So it's speed and frequency.
Speed and frequency and accuracy.
Yeah.
And I think the money will flow to those that are able to transparently show their performance.
So transparency, speed, accuracy, all of those are keys too. So I come from the agency, as you know, we both work with the same agency, and that a lot of that has to do. That's how you gain client respect, you gain customer trust. That's good for everybody in the business.
Right. Exactly.
Great. Open it up to questions. Anybody have a question for Joe?
I didn't agree to talk to any question.
So I'm sorry, we have to pull that back. Yes.
So data is great, and we consistently hear about data helping with targeting. But at the same time, I hear from a handful of clients in this space the fear of being too targeted and leveraging personalized data, to get in, when you're talking about certain conditions. How do you think we're going to maneuver around that? Do you think people are going to start to lack some of their, strongholds right now, and I'm not going to give away, too much from a condition standpoint? Or are you I know you said you can retarget through correlated other products outside of the bar space. How are you guys maneuvering around that fear of Big Brother over personalized targeting?
It's a challenge, I think, and it's a very good question. We are incredibly cautious with how we use our data. We're completely compliant, and we are literally looking at this all the time to make sure we are not breaking any guidelines. And that does lead to a place where we have an advanced analytics team that model out and project from a seed group into a broader targeting. So we do the correlations. That's probably where I think our time will be spent as we go forward. It's the modeling of target ideas using all these other data sets to target in a compelling way. And yet still with a level of confidence that we are offering a message that is going to be useful to the patient.
So does that mean you take a step back from first-party data? Because you mentioned lookalikes.
But we, on the patient side, we very careful
but
how close we're going to get, so we do take a step back. We have those that opt in and are comfortable receiving information absolutely one-to-one. We do that we do that like anybody else does that. But the step back is advanced analytics, modeling of patient data, making sure that we are not getting too close.
Makes sense. And on the HCP side, I guess it's different.
The HCP side is truly one-to-one, and it's
more comfortable with that.
No problem at all. But the question you asked, I was looking at addressable TV. We were getting down to household groups that were basically 11 houses. And you think about that, we're looking at a street, down to 11 houses in that street, and we're trying to build out an oncology drug, and that is at the borderline of you're too close. You've got to step back from that. So we have the capabilities. I'm going to try our way through that. What I find interesting is many patients are very comfortable with targeted, personalized advertising in many parts of their life. You know, it is helpful, it is beneficial. And I think as the younger generations who are completely transparent in their life, more open to this, I think attitudes will change.
It's the Amazon effect, right?
I think so. I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I totally agree with you. People, I think we don't give the consumer enough credit, so to speak, to think about how they want to receive their information in that regard. I totally agree. Anybody else? Questions? Yes.
So you talked a little bit about sometimes when clients are apprehensive about sharing their data. I was wondering if you had any kind of strategies to mitigate that apprehension or approach clients in a way where you could kind of ramp up them increasing the sharing of data with you, where you can somewhat show the value, maybe in a ramping up way, or really any strategies you have in that situation.
I don't know whether we have any transparent and any strategies. It comes down to trust. I think one of the things that we've done is often we will take a brand, test and learn, show what a transparent transfer of data on a particular brand can do. And once you start to show, improve your efficiency 25, 35%, whatever it happens to be, then the farm company becomes more confident, give you more brands, more opportunity to do that. But I think you're always going to have protection on first-party data and a protection of business results. There's going to be a whole lot of data that you keep that's going to be behind it.
Yep.
And we're not going to get access to it.
Any other questions? Great. Joe, thank you very much.
Thank you.